Hello everyone. Years ago, I came across this little illustration, and I've never forgotten it. There was once a little boy who wanted a new bicycle. All of his friends were getting new shiny bikes with all the bells and whistles. Things like a little bell on the handlebars to warn people you're coming, a small headlight powered by AA batteries, and a blinking red tail light on the back. Some of them even had colorful plastic streamers attached to the end of the hand grips that waved back and forth in the wind as you rode it. And oh, how he wanted a bike just like theirs. But all of his pleas seemed to fall on deaf ears. It seemed to him that his father wasn't listening or didn't care. And oh, how that grieved his little heart. For it made him think his friends' fathers loved them more than his father loved him. One day, he was down the street and noticed an old rusty bike in a neighbor's garage. Even though the paint was fading and peeling a bit, and the seat had a small hole in it, it had once been an expensive top-of-the-line bike, complete with multiple gears and shifters. He couldn't take his eyes off it as he stood there in his neighbor's driveway. And oh, how he wanted that bike, or one like it, the longer he looked at it. Suddenly, the neighbor came out and recognized him and called him by name. "Hey, Bobby, how are you doing? How are your parents? What are you looking at?" For a minute, Bobby said nothing. Then he sheepishly pointed to the old rusty bike with the faded paint that was chipping off. "You mean that old bike?" the neighbor asked. "Yes, sir," Bobby quietly said with a little whimper in his voice. "You don't have a bike?" "No, sir," he replied. "I asked my dad for one, but so far he's not gotten me one," he said as tears began glistening in his eyes. "Well, I'll tell you what," the neighbor said. "I'll give you this old bike if you'd like. Would you like to have it?" "Would I?" "Yes, sir, I'd love to have it," and he began jumping up and down. "Well, it's yours," the neighbor said with a chuckle, and he went into the garage and wheeled it out to where Bobby was standing. Bobby began dancing, and he whirled round and round, shouting, "I've got it! I've got it! Thank you!" "You're welcome," the neighbor said, as Bobby rode off, his little legs pumping the pedals real fast as he rang the old rusty bell on the handlebars. For 10 minutes he rode around the neighborhood, smiling and waving as he saw other neighbors and some of his classmates. You'd have thought he had won the lottery. But when he got back home to his driveway, his father was standing there. When he saw Bobby on that old rusty bicycle with faded, peeling paint, tears began streaming down his cheeks. "What's wrong, Dad?" Bobby asked him as he pressed on the brake levers on the handlebars and came to a stop. But his father didn't say a word. Instead, he quietly turned and went into the garage. Over to a corner he went, where some large flattened-out cardboard boxes had been stacked. And suddenly, out from behind them, he pulled out a brand new shiny bicycle with bright red paint and all of the bells and whistles, a top-of-the-line 10-speed bicycle that far surpassed all of Bobby's buddies. And then, with tears still streaming down his cheeks, his father looked at him and said, "I was just waiting for the right time to give it to you. Here, it's yours." And that's when Bobby began to weep, with big tears gushing out of his eyes and splattering on the driveway below. He realized he doubted his father's love for him and had broken his heart by not waiting on him. Powerful story, isn't it? Especially today. Oh, how often we do that. How often we doubt that the Heavenly Father's love for us is not existent, and we even think He's not listening, or worse, that He doesn't care. But thankfully, His love for us isn't dependent on our love for Him. No. Even though we wound His heart and grieve His spirit so many times, He still loves us with a steadfast, unquenchable love. A love that says, you can't make me love you more or less. I just love you. Always have, always will. Here's praying His love for us and our love for Him will move us to sell out to Him today. You know, this thing called absolute surrender. Letting go and letting God, where we rest in His love for us, even when we can't feel Him or understand Him. Yes, that's the true secret of peace. Relying, relaxing, resting and rejoicing in who He is and what He has promised. Yes, today's that day, the day that the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it by loving God with every part of your being, while loving others the way He loves you. May God bless you, encourage you, keep you, and strengthen you.